What is going on, everybody? And I kind of wanted to follow up on my video that I did that kind of showed a lot of different stats and things like, for example, Benford's Law and Dr. Shiva's video. I had left the links in the description just to kind of give an idea of what's going on. And I wanted to kind of follow up with that because a lot of things have changed since then. And I think what's been going on and all signs are kind of pointing to it. I think one of Trump's lawyers was on a few shows today, pretty much kind of confirming and didn't want to really get into details. And I don't think a lot of them are getting into details because if what they're saying is true, or what the rumors are, is that some servers were, I think it was Smartmatic or Dominion. Not me. It's oh, what's the name of this thing here? It's Cytel, something like that. The servers were raided in Frankfurt, so that's kind of the going story here. Um, that the servers were raided in Frankfurt, Germany. So I guess if this is true, I'm sure they're kind of in the middle of tearing it apart. And I don't think it's the lawyers doing it at this point. I got to assume it's either military or some kind of one of the agencies or something going through this, and um, it's kind of getting interesting because let me see if this is so. Pretty much what's been going on is that this is where the glitch kind of comes in. Um, so one of the counties in Michigan, and again, I think I'm going to show you. This is a county in Michigan that switched 6,000 votes from Trump to Biden, and it's the software system Dominion. And every one of the states, and you could see it's in red here which ones use it, but Nevada, Arizona, Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Pennsylvania, pretty much every state that was, I guess you can call it a swing state or a battleground or whatever the case is, uses it. And I think, I don't remember. So I know Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Pennsylvania were all red when I went to sleep um, election night. And I don't remember what Nevada was. And I think Minnesota might have been leaning blue. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, Minnesota wouldn't surprise me because I think the last Republican to win it was 84. I don't remember, but in any case, so this software that switched the votes, um, this is one of the times it got caught, and I think this is where it kind of screwed up because this is where the glitch, so-called glitch, was kind of brought to light. And you know, I'm sure there's some things, dead people voting. There's probably people, there were, I think some of the affidavits were saying that they were scanning like batches of ballots like 10, 20 times over and over again. So I'm sure a lot of that stuff kind of happened. And I'm I'm not sure if that stuff would have that big of an effect on the election. I think if you look at something like Pennsylvania, where Trump was up by like 700,000 votes, and that's, to me, that seemed to be insurmountable. I would never have thought that that would have flipped. But it's funny because a lot of these places flipped, but just enough. It wasn't, you know, Biden won by 100, 200,000. It's not like Trump went from like being up 700,000 to being down 200,000. Okay. Uh, they didn't, I don't think they wanted to make it too conspicuous. I think they wanted to, make it like, well, Trump was kind of up, but Biden won it by just a little bit. That's what I call it, a battleground, because it's bullshit. So I think this is pretty much it right here. This is where the stuff happened. So this isn't the first time this has happened with this Dominion project. So, or software. So if you look, trying to see where it was in, I want to say it was Philippines. There was a issue. I think it was 2000. Was it here? Was it not 2016? Where is it? Oh yeah, so 2010 to 2013 midterm in the Philippines, raising questions of cheating and fraud. Review of the source codes using machines found multiple problems, which concluded the software inventory provided by Smartmatic is inadequate, which brings into question software credibility. And if you go on you, there's a lot of videos. There was a professor from Princeton. You can go on YouTube, and I'm sure you could find it. I'll find it, and I'll post the link. And when I kind of get done, I'll post the link in the description. And it talks about how easy it was to switch the votes. So I'm kind of at a point where, let's assume that this is all true. Let's just, for the sake of argument, let's say, these machines, they switched it, they provide evidence, this, that, yeah. I kind of wonder, well, where do you go from there? What's the legal recourse? It's not in the Constitution. I mean, it's not like the Constitution was written in 17, when it was written in the 17 1800s, and they said, well, if there's a glitch in the computer system, no. So what's the recourse here? Because I think there's a few things going on. What was it? You obviously have to prove, if there is a glitch or that somebody, you know, either adjusted it or somebody messed with it. There's got to be some kind of proof somewhere. I don't know how they could have covered their tracks, if there's maybe the software was designed that it was meant for that, so you could cover your tracks. I just don't know. My thinking is, uh, this was mentioned back in, if you go through, and I can't bring it up now, I don't remember where I saw it, but I did see it in the WikiLeaks. They had these cables, and it was mentioned in there, the Smartmatic and all this was mentioned in there. And people are like, well, why, uh, why wouldn't you question the 2016? Trump won. Well, the WikiLeaks stuff was going like crazy back then, and I think they might have been scared to use it then. So people were reading these WikiLeaks, all these cables and all this different stuff that was in there. So they probably said, well, let's not do that. Although I do think some other kind of some kind of fraud happened in 2016, and I agree. I think there probably was a group, could have been China, could have been Russia, that were kind of going on Facebook and posting stuff. It's quite possible, but that's just, it is what it is. It's not fraud. I mean, it's definitely not fraud. So the question is, where do you go from here? Uh, it's very, very interesting where or what happens. Do they? I mean, do they just scrap everything and run it back? Uh, do they? Uh, you know, do they switch the votes back from certain states? I mean, it's really a weird situation. I mean, what really happens here? Now, The other thing I kind of wanted to touch on was all this stuff going on in DC, and there's no reason for either side to be fighting each other, killing each other. There's no reason for it. It just, no matter if you're a Republican or Democrat, the truth of the matter is that neither one really gives two flying fucks about the people. Let's be honest, okay? Uh, Now, I'm not sure about Trump because Trump is not really a politician, but if you kind of go back with his real estate dealings and stuff, he wasn't I don't think he was the most, he wasn't a perfect person either. So we'll just kind of leave it at that. But why are we fighting each other? Why, uh, you should be fighting the government? Uh, people want certain rights, people want certain things. It should be a rebellion kind of against the government itself, the establishment, rather than against each other, because it's not like the regular, ordinary Trump people are putting forth different legislature. They're not making laws. They're not involved in that kind of process. They're not um, providing health care. They're not, they don't control the oil prices. I mean, they don't have anything to do with any of that. So if you have a beef, obviously the beef is with the government itself, because um, either both sides do some wonky crap, and unfortunately, I think this whole, and it kind of got me to thinking, this whole majority minority, you have a 50-50 split in the Senate. You have you have to get to 218 in the House, and then you get the majority. I don't understand why it has to be that way. I personally think that the House and the Senate should be split 50-50, and force them to actually work together to come up with stuff. Because what ends up happening is when, Republicans have a majority in the House, they're going to go and pass their own shit. And if the Democrats have a majority in the House, they're going to go try and pass their own shit. And it's the same with the Senate. If you have a majority Republican, they're going to go with whatever that is. And if you have a majority Democrat, they're going to go with that is. So maybe you should have kind of a 50-50 split in the Republican and or in the House and the Senate, and that way it will force people to actually cross party lines and work with each other. So when they try to pass stupid shit, it's not going to get passed because it's always going to end up in a tie. Just kind of a thought, but I think that what's going on, and the biggest so here's kind of my concern. Let's say Biden wins, the same shit that you see going on in DC is going to happen, because the right's going to go and they're going to do their protests just like the left did with the BLM crap, and they're going to go do their protests. And uh, it's, I don't know what kind of violence there will be, but I'm sure the other side will show up, Antifa will show up, and there's going to be the shit that you get in DC. What kind of worries me more is if something happens here. Now, I got to assume that this whole Dominion thing, the Smartmatic shit that's going on, has to go to the Supreme Court, because it's not, you're not talking that it's just Michigan doing it. You're not talking that it's just Pennsylvania doing it. You're not talking about Wisconsin doing it. It's all of them. And you have, if you look up here, you have a lot of different states that it's being used in, So I think this has to go to the Supreme Court. I just don't see it. So basically, this glitch that halted voting. This is pretty important here. We're going to kind of get back on this topic for a bit. That halted voting in two Georgia counties on Tuesday morning was caused by a vendor uploading an update to their election machines the night before. So the night before the election, this vendor uploaded an update to their machine. So voters were unable to cast machine ballots for a couple of hours in Morgan and Spalding counties after the election crash and days extended voting till 11 p.m. So something definitely happened here. And I don't think this is the first report of uploading software and all that kind of stuff. And again, you look here. Uh, this is this Lord Mark Malloch Brown. He's a George Soros guy. And here we go with George Soros again. And we know George Soros has a lot of money. I'm sure he's got skin in the game. But George Soros is so in the shadows. I think it's pretty much impossible to implicate him directly in anything. He's probably 10, 20 people removed from what's going on. So it's you can forget about that, but he does have ties into this, that's for sure. And then the 200,000 dump of Biden votes in Michigan, 100,000 Biden vote dump in Wisconsin, uh, has been used in multiple states. Was rejected 3 times by the events for community base. So basically, the other problem is it doesn't even meet security standards. This software, this system. Um, it's this is a complete shit show if there ever was one. A complete shit show. And it's I think it's getting to the point where you'll I I don't know how long it would take to figure this shit out because I think I think the Frankfurt thing happened like Tuesday or Wednesday, and that's assuming that they didn't have time to wipe all their drives or data or whatever they had on there. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see where this goes. It really is going to be interesting. I kind of think this has to go if this whole glitch stuff or this software stuff. I think if it gets and I think it is getting more legs. I think the legs are definitely growing on this thing. I mean, we went from a centipede to a millipede at this point. It's the legs are growing um, pretty fast here. So I just I just don't know where it goes from here, how long it takes to kind of scrub the data and figure all that kind of stuff out. I just don't know how long that's going to take. And I don't know if we'll hear anything this week, but you have to keep in mind we are getting closer. I think we're a little under a month away. Um, I think I don't know what day it is. It's sometime in December. I think it's December 8th where they have to kind of do all this elector stuff. So I don't know if it's enough time to go through all that. I would assume you would have to have a couple of teams of people working on it to kind of figure this out. But it's going to be interesting, I think, this week at least. I think we're going to hear a little bit more. I mean, obviously, it's the weekend, so not much really, happens on the weekend. But I think probably Tuesday, Wednesday, I think you're going to start seeing some more, um, I guess, more evidence maybe presented. This, what they were talking about, like people that were voting that were dead and all this like late ballots and counting certain ballots. And I think that's kind of all just I don't want to say a ruse. I'm sure there's some validity to it, but I think that's just kind of a distraction for the real shit that's about to go down, which is this whole Dominion thing. And I think the biggest uh, repercussion of this Dominion thing is that if it is found out, you kind of got to think to yourself, how long has this been going on? Because you have people that were in tighter races and all that going back. Obviously, this has been going on in Philippines for at least 10 years. It was also in, I think they were saying in Venezuela this was kind of going on too. So, one of the things that is really weird, so Dominion, I believe, from my understanding, was founded by some Venezuelan people in Venezuela. And if you remember, I don't know if it was this year or last year, there was some kind of, uh, I don't know, I don't think they were military. I think they might have been hired or something. There was some kind of operation in Venezuela that they said it failed or something like that. So I kind of wonder if that kind of ties into any of this. I'm wondering if somebody knew about this whole Dominion thing and what was going to happen in this election a while ago. And this was just, they knew what was going on. They knew where to look for everything. And this just was kind of the bait. And the trap was set in the election. And they took the bait, whoever it was. Now, even if there is the fraud and they say, well, the Dems cheated, well, I'm sure they're just going to blame. There's going to be some fall guys that are they're going to blame, and obviously they're not going to say, well, yeah, we did. They're going to say, well, there were a few radical anti-Trump people that were working on their own that did it. Like two or three tech dudes that did it. But we'll see what happens. I think that's going to be it for now. I don't want to get too much involved because, again, this is all kind of new to me with all this Dominion stuff, and I'm still kind of taking it all in as it comes. It seems like every couple of hours something else is going on, so I think we'll see what happens. But stay safe out there. Later.